Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from New York City, Manhattan. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. This is our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam podcast, unlike any other Srimad Bhagavatam class historically. And me and Kaustubha do this separately. So, I usually have a little cage that I work out of, scream, shake my arms around. And Kaustubha, very centered, very grounded, right? But now we're together. The Tasmanian devil is here with this dove.
It's not quite like that. He's just louder, that's all.
And we do this live on Facebook today. And we do this actually every day. So if you're listening on Facebook and you want to join this little party, you go to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And from there, you will get the secret codes to enter into the Zoom class, which happens every day at 5 a.m., Monday to Friday. Yeah. And then Saturday and Sunday, we do 8 a.m. And then it goes off to all the podcasts of the world, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Okay, so today's question day, we take questions in from the week, sometimes from the month, because sometimes questions get backed up. If your question didn't get answered, it's because we neglected you. We don't think your questions are important. Just kidding. That was a horrible joke. It's because sometimes we just get backlogged with questions.
Especially now, because we didn't do it last week.
And we didn't do it last week, so we're a little extra backlogged. Yeah. Okay, you want to go?
Yeah, the first two questions are for the two of us. And by the way, we're today, why don't we announce for Patreon members today, Lauren Baptiste is doing a special Ayurveda, moving into the Vata season kind of thing.
Yeah, so we have this, to support us, you go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. We have all these classes, workshops, etc. Today's an Ayurvedic workshop with a great lady and a great presenter and teacher, Lauren Baptiste. She's live on Zoom today as well. And so you just go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages and you join that little Patreon party. Okay. And then we have yoga classes, etc. all week. It's good.
A lot going on.
We have a 12-step recovery group.
12-step recovery group will be at probably 9:30 Eastern time today. Yeah. Lauren Baptiste's thing is at what time, Mara?
That's also at 9:30 today.
Okay, so you got to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And then tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern time, we'll be having an interview with Professor Edwin Bryant.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one.
I'm going to be at my mom's.
Okay.
Might even bring her on the show.
Easier.
She's louder than me. When you meet her,
That's where it came from. She's the one I got to talk to.
Yeah, I came from old school Brooklyn Italians. They're crazy and loud.
Okay. So here's the first questions for the two of us is coming from Bhakti Ramsey in Arizona.
We love Bhakti Ramsey. We consider him a Californian.
Okay. Should I read this question?
Yeah.
Okay. Getting into Bhakti, I see that there's so many books that are to be read. From Prabhupada's long list of books. He does have a long list of books.
Long list.
And lectures to the Srimad Bhagavatam, to Bhagavad Gita. With so much to go over, where should one start? I have a particularly busy family and work life, and sometimes feel overwhelmed and not knowing what I should give my focus to. I've heard some say to study Bhagavatam daily, while others recommend the Gita. I've also heard devotees say, just read the Krishna pastimes book first, while others say, Science of Self-Realization.
There's so many books. It's a great question because there's people want to collect books.
Yeah.
But who's answering this? Both of us?
Yeah, I think it's two of us. He said, what would each of you recommend and why?
He wants two. He wants
double.
He doesn't want one answer. He wants both. Then he's going to weigh them out and see which one sounds better for him.
This is what I would say. I would say that
this is cool. We can look each other.
I would say that there are different types of reading a person can do. One is light reading. You just want some relaxed, not like deep, heavy studying, right? You just want to relax, but you want to read something that's valuable and nourishing and spiritually, got some value to it. So for that kind of, I think you should have some of that reading in your life, Dr. Ramsey, right? But then there should also be some more serious study. One way to read is you want some light reading. Another way to read is you want to really study. Another way to read is actually just as a spiritual practice, like you could just read one verse, So I would suggest a little bit of each. Like for light reading, there's books like The Journey Home by Raghunath Swami. There's Prabhupada's small books can be read for that kind of reading, I think sometimes too, a mixture. You can read things like Mahabharata for that and, just kind of like easier reading. Then for study, you can do like a Bhagavatam study where you say, let me read 10 verses of Bhagavatam a day and work my way through it. Let me read 20 verses a day, work my way through it. So you can have that going on simultaneously, And Bhagavad Gita, why not read one chapter a day every day? It just takes a few minutes,
Yeah, what's your problem, Dr. Ramsey?
He says he doesn't have time. You find the time.
You find the time. The time works around you. Yeah. Dr. Ramsey, I totally get kids. Having kids is like a whole different world. Just driving a kid somewhere and driving them back and taking care of their needs. And he's got a lot of kids, and he's got a job, and he's got a spouse, and he's a spiritualist. So a lot of us are there's a lot of downtime for the mind in that vehicle.
Yeah.
In that vehicle is my time where I educate myself and I educate my kids because they're stuck in the car with me. What is going on in that car is a valuable time because anything can fill up the airwaves. It can be just dead air. It can be just gabbing. It can be a learning experience. It could be a transcendental experience. So I go to Audible, because I have kids. My kids like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. That's when they get in the car. That's what we're playing. I'm not listening to anything else. For me, I have to find that downtime. That's why Wisdom of the Sages I think is good because we're going through the Bhagavatam and we're discussing relevant things, and you can listen to it while you're. I live in a property. I have to rake leaves. If I'm raking leaves, I'm listening to stuff. If I'm mowing the lawn, I'm listening to stuff. And that is the good thing about technology. With all the bad things we're complaining about, there's some good things about it too. If I'm in range, I live upstate, so I can't get in range. If I'm in range, I've got tons of YouTube videos that I'm listening to on a regular basis. And now me and Mara are, we're going to do the podcast in the morning from the yoga studio. And then I'm going to teach yoga. So we have like a half hour before then where we're just going to spend 20, she doesn't know this yet. But we're going to spend 20 minutes just reading something. I haven't told her what yet. Okay. But why not? We have that downtime. Why just waste it?
Find creative ways.
Find creative ways to put it in. Maybe you need a minimum. Everyone needs a minimum with their sadhana.
Set some like regular kind of regularity to it.
Yeah, just like with our chanting, there's a minimum, 1 round a day. And that just keeps you tethered to your spiritual life. And then if you feel like I'll chant 2 rounds a day. I'll read every day, or I'll listen to this show every day. And then if I can add something else, I'll do something else. I'll chant a chapter. I'll study deeper. When you start getting into 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, it's not like you get a pass. But you got to start getting real creative. You know,
I think, I'm sure with the kids, it's
it's
more
unbelievable,
challenging.
man.
But I think it's challenging almost for
unbelievable.
anyone.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's not. It's not. What, you throw a kid in the mix with something completely mundane, like a PTA meeting.
People work long hours, Raghunath. People are struggling to survive in this world.
I
Not
know.
only people with kids.
People with kids.
People with kids are as well, but not only people with kids. That's my point.
I'm going to let you watch my kids for a weekend, and then you're going to report back.
But in any case, I would say that, you know, there are certain books that you should definitely read, and it may take a while to work through them. Gita, Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Teaches the Lord Chaitanya or Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the Gita. Did I say that?
Yeah.
And that may take you time. So just like set a little time aside, even if you're just reading just the verses from that in one purport or something like that. Work your way through. And that's something, even if it's just 20 minutes a day for something like that, you're working your way through. And then have other types of reading too. And sometimes you got 10 minutes free. You just pick up that book and you might do your best reading right then because you're just like totally focused. It's not like you're trying to knock the pages down.
I've got a couple books open around my house.
Yeah.
That when I sit in that room, I'm picking up that book.
Pick it up, and then just for that 10 minutes, just try to make it like, let it speak to you. You know, say a little prayer. You know, please speak to me. I really want to walk away and imbibe something. So there's prayerful kind of. And another way to read, this is really good. Here's a reading tip, reading hack.
Reading hack.
Read out loud.
I took it.
I know you do everything loud.
Read out loud.
Read out loud. As you can, if you have deities in your home or a picture of Krishna.
I'm reading my deities.
And what that does is it gets the other sense of hearing going. And not only that, try to read as nice as you can. Like if a Krishna was sitting right there with you and you're trying to read it to him in the most pleasant and clear way, because when you if you're reading it like you were on the radio or something like that, it makes you read it very carefully.
Yeah,
and it just gets your attention and your focus totally on it. So read out loud.
If you walk away with one thing today, that was the advice. That was great advice.
Pretend you're on the BBC and you're reading.
I like to say read it to your deities, like you're reading to a child,
but with the British
accent,
little child, like you're on the BBC.
Like you're on the
like that. Okay, ready for the next question? I hope that was okay and helpful, Ramsey.
Dr. Ramsey, hope I see you in Arizona.
All right. Okay, here's the second question. It's coming from Vayu Das.
Vayu Das, great name.
He shares some kind of words. It says Prabhupada's vision of spreading this philosophy, bhakti philosophy, to the Western countries has gained momentum due to this daily podcast. Maybe a little bit, a little bit.
Here to serve.
We're just trying to do our little thing. Truly inspiring. What other projects, methods have you thought about to spread this movement? There are so many devotees and communities of devotees who don't seem to have a plan. What's your plan, man?
What's your plan? What's your plan?
I think, just to share some background thoughts, is like Raghunath and I, we've been so grateful for all the response we're getting to the podcast. We get letters every day. We get people stepping forward, wanting to serve in different ways. And we are overwhelmed, not only with gratitude, but just with like the amount of it. So if we don't answer your letter, it's our fault, but it's just we're disorganized and we're trying to get our lives together and trying to figure this out and do all that we can with the community that's developing. Now, the good news is Rachel. What's Rachel's last name now?
Manawis. Just got married. She's a newlywed.
So she's meeting with us today, and she's like a super organizer, and she's going to come onto the team. And
she's one of those organized people.
Very organized. She's going to help us a lot. And so we're building. That'll be like, we've had Mara on the team. Tom's kind of a member of the team, although since COVID he hasn't been. But Rachel could be like a real powerful member of the team. But there's all kind of things that we could do together.
Well, all our teachers are a member of the team. We have all these people volunteering on Patreon.
All the teachers.
That Patreon thing isn't not just even to sell us, but it's really just created a community that people are like connected with each other.
Right. And we say that like Wisdom of the Sage is working on 4 levels. The first level is social media, which we like to do a lot more, do separate little educational videos on a lot of the topics that we cover. And just do better through social media. Then there's a first step, social media. Second step, the podcast. Third step, Patreon. And fourth step is in-person retreats and trainings. So we want to develop those four. But I think as we come together as a community, there's a lot of things we could do. We could do social initiatives together, right? Like it's a group, it's a body of people where we could do cool kind of social initiatives that are Bhakti related. And, who knows? Sky's the limit,
Yeah, we are finding, we never planned this. It's sort of expanding the whole idea of that Patreon community, the 12-step Bhakti program, the Bhakti 12-step program, retreats. All this stuff is sort of like it's blossoming. It's almost like if you see a plant in the springtime, you never quite understand what's that plant going to turn into. Then it has a flower, then it has a fruit, then it has a scent. And so it's sort of becoming even more than our dreams. So we're just trying to put people in the right place who can assist with that. So yeah, if you have some talent, let us know.
Let us know, and we'll try to figure it all out.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of it has to do with if people find us, they find the podcast, they go into Patreon, they want to go deeper. I think we really, once the COVID thing kind of lets up, we want to really focus a lot on offering different levels and styles of training, maybe in cooperation with the Bhakti Center too, but so that people, if they want to spend a week, a month, a year, that they could find a way to immerse themselves, learn, develop more training in the practice as well as in the philosophy.
I love immersions because it really takes you out of your regular habits and say, okay, I know what you got going. You've been working on that for a lifetime. Yeah. Try this for an immersion and then see how you feel.
Right.
And then it's sort of like, and usually it's so different than your old life. You're like, wow, when you juxtapose it to the way you've been living. And then all of a sudden, then after it's over, you got to figure out, okay, what can I keep from that was good? And
was any of that good?
Wait, was I just brainwashed? But that's what we do in India too. And that's what we're hoping to do with this retreat in Colombia. If you're interested in that, go to Raghunath.yoga, click on the Wisdom of the Sages retreat. We're basically, Kaustubha and Mara are going away for 12 days, and you're all invited.
I think if enough people come, we could bring Doyle over there too, right?
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'm super excited.
Okay.
But basically, it's like an immersion of hearing and chanting and mantras and kirtan and all this stuff that we love. But you get such a high from that, from the quality of the people that you're around who are very focused on what they want. And then all of a sudden, and you sometimes don't even notice it until you're out of it. And then you're like, what just happened to me? And that's powerful. That's when people start to adjust life.
Okay. We got to do it. Some people are saying, come to Texas.
Come to Texas.
Yeah. All right. You ready for the next one? No, Ontario, Canada.
I am coming to Texas.
He's coming to Texas.
I'm going to Texas in March. No, in April.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to Big Yoga Houston.
All right. Next question. This is for me. You read it to me.
Is that when I'm going to hang out with Nityananda Chandra? Kaustubha, I have a question for you.
Who are you?
I am Iskra from Venezuela.
Okay.
She's an Ashtangi yogi, a Bhakti Ashtangi yogi. I've read and heard that within yoga, in general, there are some schools of thought, monistic and others, dualistic.
Monistic?
Monistic 1, dualistic 2. Generally, when we heard the word dual, it's like bad, dual bad.
Why is dual bad?
Why? Because they think of like
in
separateness.
Circles. Okay, yeah.
Duality. Why are you so into duality, man?
Okay.
So dualistic and monistic. And in Bhakti, there's personalistic and impersonalistic. Now that's a better way to phrase it. You're so impersonal. Like that's a pejorative, as opposed to personalism. Could you talk a little bit about this, the difference and the similarities between these streams of thinking?
Yes. Very good question. Very fundamental question. Within there are like 6 classical schools of Indian philosophy, and one of them is Vedanta. And Vedanta means people that are accepting Vyasadev's Vedic literature as authoritative, right? That I believe in it, I have faith in it, that it's the truth. And within Vedanta, there are 2 schools of thought. And as Iskra has mentioned, one you could call technically the term is Advaita Vedanta, right? So Advaita means that
Oneness.
that it's a monistic idea. Advaita would refer to two, and Advaita would negate that, would be one. So what's it referring to, two and one? It means, and not necessarily two, but like multiple, right? So the monists or the Advaitins, sometimes the word Mayavadi is used, refers to a person that believes that in the end, all forms, any type of duality is illusion. So that means like Raghunath and I are sitting here right now.
We're actually just one being.
It appears like it's two different people.
It's one.
But they would say that actually that's an illusion, that in the end, we merge all into one.
Would you like to merge with us? Come.
So that's one philosophy that's was popularized especially by one very powerful, influential person in the history of Vedanta, the history of Hinduism, Shankaracharya, sometimes called Adi Shankaracharya. And then the other understanding or interpretation, whatever you want to call it, of Vedanta is that no, I'm always me, Raghunath is always Raghunath, and God is always God. I will never become God. I'm the energy of God. I'm made of the same energy of God, but I'm not God. I'm not the source. I emanate from that source. So that would be the dualistic, that there's me and there's God. We're two. At the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, what is it? Natve baham jatuna samnatvam ne me janadipa. That never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. And there are many, Bhagavad Gita, when you read it, it's so dualistic. There's so many very clear dualistic statements there. Upanishads, they lend themselves more easy to a monistic, but there's certainly many dualistic statements there. But this is the point, that when it comes to bhakti yoga, it believes that the soul and the God are two different beings, and they will be eternally. And when you have great devotees like Hanuman, who says, I would never want to merge into and become God, because then there would be no opportunity to serve, and service is really what life is all about. That is my happiness, that is my joy, that is my nature. So
imagine praying to yourself, dear me, please help me.
Without getting into too long a philosophical conversation about it, I find the monistic philosophy to be, I want to say it in a way that I find it to be implausible. Right? I find it to be implausible that myself and Raghunath are not two different conscious entities, and that we're going to merge into one, or that I am God. If I am God, then how did I fall under the influence of the modes of material nature and become confused and suffer? There's a lot of philosophical questions. And I find that the monistic or Advaitin philosophy, it tends to twist words and become vague. Whereas I find the Bhakti philosophy to be very clear and practical and make perfect sense. I hope I've covered this well.
That's like because you do not understand.
You see, that's that kind of thing. The one, words cannot describe it, and it'll get into that kind of thing. Whereas the Bhakti philosophy is, quite simple. Is that there's an unlimited source. I am limited. I emanate from that source. I have the qualities of that source, but in minute quantity, right? And my goal is to reconnect. To uncover that connection. That's the Bhakti philosophy.
In Bhakti, we're not denying that there is an impersonal aspect of the absolute. Just like there's sun coming in the window right now. That doesn't mean the sun globe is in the window. That means the energy of the sun is now in this room. So in the same sense, there is the energy, and then there's the energetic, right? So they both exist. It's just you see them from a different vantage point. But we can't deny one without the other. They both work together. But in Bhakti, there's like love. There's generally a lover and a beloved. And that's what you need. That's what part of Bhakti is. It's a bona fide yogic path of mukti, to pull yourself back from the pain of the material world. Mukti or Jiva Mukti means there's pain in this world, so I'm going to pull back from the pain and not try to just enjoy the world. I'm going to pull back, I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to relieve myself from the pain of this world. To really practice this impersonal philosophy, you got to get the hell out of town. You got to get alone. You got to stop going outward for your pleasure at all. In Bhakti, we use the world, but we try to see divinity in the world. And therefore, I find it to just be very, very practical.
Very practical. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very sweet.
All right, Raghu. I got a question for you. I hope that was helpful, Iskra. We're always talking about this subject, so we'll go into it more during the show, I think.
Yeah. You really talk soft, man.
No, I talk normal. You are yelling.
Normal is a setting on a washing machine, Kaustubha.
There are other applications of the word normal and states of normality. Okay. This is a question for you from Martin C.
Martin C., welcome to the show.
Via the Discord thread. I have a friend. Oh, this is a serious question, Raghunath. Okay.
All right.
I have a friend who was diagnosed with a pretty severe cancer recently and had major surgery, which has scarred her to the core.
Mm.
The long-term survival rates are not good. I feel like I, as her friend, should introduce her to Krishna consciousness, to Bhakti, as it has benefited me greatly, and I have a copy of the Science of Self-Realization for her. But I need advice on how best to approach her with the gift. Your advice would be greatly appreciated.
I'm ready for this question.
Really?
Well, because for the longest time, see, I don't consider myself a proselytizer or a preacher. I don't consider myself that. I tell people about Bhakti if they want to know about Bhakti. If they just want to be my friend, I'm okay with people just being my friend. I don't have to convert the world. That being said, I love Bhakti. I love Krishna. I love Vrindavan. I love pilgrimage. I love kirtan. So therefore, whatever you love, you naturally tell people about. But I'm one of these guys that I don't like to push my beliefs on people.
All right.
So I only tell people about Bhakti if they want to know.
All right.
And so in a yoga class, I'll tell them because it's part of the yoga philosophy, part of the yoga lifestyle. On a podcast, it's about Bhakti, I'll tell it. So I've been very standoffish with telling people, hey, you should start chanting this mantra. You should chant 2 rounds a day. You should read the Bhagavatam every day. I generally never previously would say that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not great because I got to a point where there were people, students, who would say things like, I'm going through a life and death situation right now. What should I do? And just because I didn't want to be that guy who doesn't preach, I wouldn't give them this precious thing. There's a time to give people deeper things. And when there's a person that's really getting their life threatened with something like their life's going to be taken away from them, who knows, or they're, have terminal illness or chronic illness or some type of life death situation, if you can do it in a delicate way where it's not offensive, you're not being rude, you could say, hey, this has really benefited me. Try this type of meditational practice. Read this book. I think you'll get something good out of it. At that point, I've learned for myself. I'm sharing with you where I feel like I've screwed up. I have to go out more. When people are asking for it, I've got to be able to give it all to them. I shouldn't hold back because I don't want to be one of these preachy proselytizers. At that time, you're not. They actually need it. And it's my turn to step into that again.
So do you have some tips as to how to do that?
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, it really depends on who the hearer is, because there's certain people that will. I mean, come on. We know people that are have dying of lung issues, yet they won't give up smoking. So no matter how much you tell them, hey, give up smoking, they're not going to listen to you. But it generally has to do with the longer term relationship. If they feel like you're a good person, you're living an integrated life, a life with integrity, then if you say something, they might be like, you know what? I trust this guy. What do you have to say? It really depends on your relationship. I'd be gentle. I'd say, hey, this has helped me. I like to also put things in first person, just like I'm saying right now. I'm saying like, this is where I went wrong. I think when you talk about yourself and your own struggles and your own growth and your own pain and your own things you're trying to work out, it comes off less like, what are you doing with your life? Why aren't you more spiritual? No one wants to hear that for the most part. People tend to recoil. But when I talk about my struggle and my joy and my feeling of connection and my feeling of this, when I do this, I feel disconnected, then people can relate to you because you're sharing your own vulnerability. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
So you're saying that rather than say, I can see you're vulnerable, here's what you need, there's a way to speak where you're sharing your own vulnerability.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that with a person that's dying from cancer and severe, it may seem like they're not equal, you know?
You could say, you know, I see you're going through this time in your life where you're in pain.
Yeah.
Let me share about the time I was going through. Everybody's gone through some type of pain.
Okay.
Maybe not death, but maybe something that feels like death almost. And you say, I was really struggling. This book really helped me, or this mantra really helped me, or this thing helped me.
So it sounds like the main thing you're saying is it can't be condescending.
Yeah.
It's got to be coming on that person's level.
I think this is a whole new way that we have to approach giving this to other people. That's why a 12-step group, we were talking about that every day so far, it is powerful because as soon as you feel preached at, people recoil. They don't want to share. They don't want to be vulnerable. But when you start talking about your own struggle instead of playing guru with everybody, this is a big problem because we have so much information. The Vedas have so much information. It's easy to play the guru with people. It's not going to work. It's not going to help them, and it's not going to help us.
Right. I think you're right.
You think I'm right?
I think you're understanding. Good answer.
Mikey likes it.
I hope that was okay and helpful. Martin. All right, now you have a question for me. This is this super long question, but maybe you just read part of it. Like this part, okay? Because Nityananda Chandra sent it's a great question. A long question, Nityananda.
Okay. This whole area here?
Yeah.
Kaustubha ji.
From Nityananda Chandra.
From Nityananda Chandra from Houston.
I think it's from Dallas, isn't he?
Oh, he's from Dallas. Well, hope I see him. I would like for you to dig deeper in a subject that you have both been discussing over the past several weeks. That is of forgiveness and tolerance.
Okay.
So my question is, every so often in a religious or spiritual circles, there can be an environment created that becomes a facility for abuse. Happens whenever you get one person. Actually, you don't even need two people. You can abuse yourself. You don't even have to have an organization, an ashram, a church. So my question is,
in every
welcome to my mind, Kaustubha.
Forgiveness and tolerance. So my question is, every so often, did you read that? In religious and spiritual circles, there can be
a facility for abuse. So what do I mean by that? Well, in a religious and spiritual circles, forgiveness is put in the forefront and therefore a protective challenge against bad behavior and abuse can be seen as an act that is against forgiveness, the anti-forgiver. The general motto that is heard is we must tolerate for oneself and be non-tolerant or protective of others.
Okay.
However, it seems that to be tolerant, it is also often comes to the point where one is being tolerant or unprotective of others as well. Therefore, those whom we have a dharma, a duty to protect, such as our children, remain unprotected. Please give more clarity on this subject, for often an abuser or an aggressor can be given space or facility in such an environment where the aggressor abuses again and again and is forgiven again and again.
Okay. So let's just take that part of the question.
Good question.
It's a good question. And you know, let's start by saying that there's certain types of abuse. I would say, you know, child abuse, you know, particularly any kind of child abuse, domestic abuse, you know, where violence is involved, where there's sexual abuse of any kind. You know, our culture has come to a certain place where there's a lot of study into this, a lot of understanding about the mind and how it works for people that commit this kind of abuse. as well as studies into the precautions that communities can take, right? So I think when it comes to that kind of abuse, we should not hesitate to find guidelines, from other institutions that have put these into place well. So I think that's real important in any kind of spiritual community. There should be an understanding of, if you have a public center, what it means for parents to take care of their kids in that center, making sure that kids are being looked after, making sure that there are people within that community that have training in this type of abuse and what to look for and to be aware of the different patterns and the different red flags that might go up. So, that's one thing right off the bat, is that these things, and then if there is this kind of serious abuse, it should be reported to the police. That's like another thing, right? It's not like, there have been plenty of spiritual communities, including our own, that have in the past have tried to deal with this kind of stuff without thinking, oh, okay, we can talk about this and work this out. And that was with a naive kind of idea of the dangers of this kind of abuse.
Yeah, it's not just our community. Communities in general didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
The Catholic Church hid it. They dealt with it amongst the elders or the deacons, and they never brought it publicly.
Practically everywhere, in families and schools. And, so that's my point, is like, there is a lot more clear understanding of the nature of the problem. And so therefore we should take advantage of clear guidelines of how to deal with it. So that's one thing. Now, in a more general sense, this question was hitting on a very common kind of tension that comes up. It comes up in our human life. It comes up in the Shastra, in these sacred texts, that we read, like Mahabharata and all that. And that is that there's always a tension. Commonly, there's a tension between mercy, which is a very important spiritual quality. You mentioned forgiveness and tolerance, more or less the same thing. And the tension between mercy and justice, right? When someone does something wrong, as a society, there has to be some response. There has to be some reaction, both to protect the innocent as well as to rectify the offender. Now, if you want a clear, simple guideline in how to deal with that, I can't provide one.
It's not clear and simple.
It's not. That's
it's not clear and simple.
It's not clear and simple. So there. If you and one of the clearest.
I know what you're going to say.
I know you know what I'm going to say because we've said it before.
What?
But why don't you let me say it?
What are you going to say?
You're going to ask about Ashvatthama.
Yeah.
About Ashvatthama, right? So there's this episode in the Bhagavatam that we've read already, happened in the first canto, where a person committed a most horrid crime. He killed 5 innocent people, right? 5 innocent boys, really young.
He killed a bunch of people, but while they were sleeping, those 5 boys,
right? And so those are the sons of each of the Pandavas, right? All 5 brothers lost a son to this man who killed them in their sleep. And then Arjuna was deputed to capture him. He did capture him, and he dragged him back, and he brought him before Draupadi, who had lost all her sons to this person. And Arjuna assured her, "I will capture him. I will, and I will bring you his head." And he gave.
Yeah, he's like basically the death penalty right now on the spot. I'm going to give you this guy's head. He killed your kids. I'm going to give you his head.
Right. This person is too dangerous to allow.
Right.
So anyway, he dragged him back. At that time, Draupadi, his wife, said, "Please don't kill him. I don't want his mother to suffer the way that I'm suffering right now." So she said, "I prefer that you don't kill him." Krishna said, "Kill him."
Krishna said, "Kill him."
His elder brother Bhima said, "Kill him." His wife Draupadi said, "Don't kill him." His elder brother Yudhishthira said, "Don't kill him." After Draupadi started talking, then Krishna said, "Actually, don't kill him."
Right? Even Krishna will vacillate.
So he had, and then what Krishna said to Arjuna is, you have to satisfy everyone, right? Somehow you have to figure out how to satisfy everyone. And he figured out a way. He kind of killed his ego without killing him physically, although, it did lead to a further problem. But the point being is that understanding where, I remember once, it was a couple of years back, we were having it was when we were in the eco village, and there was some back and forth, someone speaking, there's a group of us, and someone was speaking about a relationship that they had with a relative and how what they had done was unforgivable. And another person was saying, we always have to find a space in our heart to forgive. And this person was saying, no, you don't understand how many times I've forgiven and how much damage this person's caused and this and that. And the other person was saying their side, and everyone was looking like nobody could get to the group was trying to get to like the boil it down to what was right.
What happened?
And I brought up at that point, this is common, that there's a tension between justice and mercy. And it's not that sometimes you just can't say exactly what to do. You have to pray. Yudhishthira is constantly dealing with this. The Mahabharata is constantly dealing with this.
Yeah.
It's part of human life, is trying to walk that line. It's not simple. And so one important lesson, and maybe it's not exactly what Nityananda Chandra Prabhu was looking for, but I find that around this topic, one important thing to remember is be careful condemning people for not necessarily having the exact same view that we do on this justice and mercy issue, right? One person may be leaning a little towards mercy and one person may be leaning a little towards justice. And they're both well-intentioned people who can justify their position, right?
Yeah.
Even there, you had God on one hand saying one thing,
and God's
spirit devotees on the other side. God changing his own mind, right? So I think a wise person will recognize that there's not necessarily a right or wrong. We do need to be very careful to make sure that like serious abuse, that we protect innocent people from serious abuse. But how one walks this fine line is challenging. It is challenging. If you feel that there's been abuse in your community, it sounds to me like, and now we're not necessarily talking about like some very serious crime, but there's other types of abuse that do go on in communities, like pressuring and manipulative behavior and so on. Maybe that's not like something on the same level and it's dangerous as other types of abuse, but that is a type of abuse and it does arise. And you do have to be able to have channels. A community does have to be able to have channels where people always feel comfortable bringing it forward, and that they're not going to be made felt that they won't be shamed for it, or made to feel it's wrong for them to bring it up. We should try to foster in our communities ways to do that respectfully.
It also doesn't mean that the person shouldn't be. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to keep staying in a sick relationship. It also means forgiveness doesn't mean the person might have to go to jail. He might have to go to jail, or she might have to go to jail. I don't want to be sexist. She might also have to go to jail, or he might have to go to jail for their behavior. That doesn't.
So in other words, there's not necessarily tension between forgiveness and justice, because you can.
Yeah.
Justice can be handed out, and you could still forgive the person.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, you could say, I forgive you, but our marriage is over. That's also
right. Yeah.
Right.
The good point. If there's some kind of abuse in a relationship like that, one might have to walk away with it and let go of any hostility you feel towards that person, but still end it. Right?
And another thing that you brought up was Draupadi wasn't making the decision solely. Arjuna was giving his 2 cents. Krishna was giving his 2 cents. Yudhishthira was giving. Everyone was. There's like a council of respected people. Kaustubha.
There's a council of respected people. So communities have to have this, but I'll say this also: anytime you have a community of people, you're going to struggle with these things.
Yeah,
and that's the nature of this world. It's not going to be easy. That is our challenge in life. There's no utopia where you just get it all set up and everything starts to flow smooth. This is human life, that we have to constantly struggle to deal with these things. Let's learn how to deal with them well. Let's learn. Let's find the right counsel. Let's find the right guidelines, both spiritually, shastrically from the sacred text, as well as professionally, if they're appropriate. Let's look to the culture of Vaishnavism, the yoga culture, to see how people deal with these. Let's learn how to, let's learn how to recognize wise people and show them the respect that they're due and give them the platform that they need to speak. Let's also create platforms where anyone can speak, that everyone is respectful for one another. This is our challenge in spiritual life, to create those kind of communities, and it's not easy in this world.
this brings up a great point that we really want to talk about, because we talked about it before the podcast started when we were doing Super Soul Sacred Song, is the problems of churchianity, or the problems of a church, an ashram, an organization, an institution, institutionalized religiosity, and just find the problems with it and the benefits of it. And I think it's safe to say when me and Kaustubha got into Bhakti and joined the ashram, it was a pretty dysfunctional time in the Hare Krishna movement. It was like coming off of a really dysfunctional time. And it was sort of like
looking to improve.
Yeah, it had hit the bottom. Like the bomb had went off, basically. So in all its dysfunction, in all its criticism you can give it, rightful criticism at times, that dysfunctional thing also saved our life.
Sure.
You know, so we, in one sense, because one thing within an institution, community, etc., when it's dysfunctional, when there's some problems going on, the nature is, these guys are so screwed up, I'm going to do this on my own. Now, if early people practicing Bhakti in America felt that way every time something went wrong, we wouldn't be here.
I mean, that's an important point too. Is just, if, you know, what's that saying, like, never believe that a small group of people can't change the world. It's a small group of committed people.
Yeah. Because
ultimately, actually, it's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
And the fact is, even a small group is difficult to pull together. But what does it mean to be committed? You know, committed means that I don't, any time I can rationalize just walking away, that I do. You know, committed means that I understand that humans are going to make mistakes. Humans are going to disagree with me. Even well-intentioned humans are going to have different viewpoints on the same subject. We have to find a way to work together. You know, we have to find a way to unite. Unless you've really seen a person that's really good at it, like this is my own opinion through my experience. Until I saw one or two people that really knew, that really showed me the extent that one has to go to try to bring people together, I wouldn't have a very clear understanding of it.
Sure.
I would always feel like this is justified for this reason. You have to go beyond what's justified sometimes to pull people together. Sometimes if you've been offended, you know, and again, it doesn't mean you become a doormat, but you may have been offended or mistreated in some way, or just not respected in some way, but you stick to it. And you know, try to unite. Always able to. I've seen certain people that are able to go that extra mile, and when you want to do something really special, you have to. The test is always going to be there. Is this about my pride? Is this about my ego? Is this about doing things the way that I think they should be done, or am I willing to go that extra mile to really make it happen? And that's, I think, when the magic things start to happen.
This is not, and this isn't just in an institution. This is in a marriage. Sure. This is in the workplace. If you want to get to some next level, you got to be able to hold it through and tolerate. And truthfully, on a spiritual path, I want everyone just to understand this. If you're on a spiritual path, expect there to be some hurdle. Some person that's driving you crazy, that's in your face, that's totally annoying, that set you off. And enough of this. I don't need these people. Right. Be careful, because Maya is always trying to set up a hurdle. How valuable
that person is. One little fault and we're ready to reject a person. Right?
We're ready to reject a community. Yeah. And for this one person that's driving me crazy, I'm going to give up an entire community, and we don't realize how much the community was lifting us. Right. So there's a power of community. And that doesn't mean you're going to not find people that you do jive with and people you have to back off from, too. I like Kaustubha. I keep them close. Kept them close for 30 years. Now we're sitting next to each other. We dance together every day on the show. It's part of our fun. It's part of our joy. I come over his house. We make popcorn. We hit each other with pillows.
We don't do that.
We do. He doesn't want to share it. We do.
Okay. So I hope that's helpful. There's two sides to it, you know. It's not a simple thing, but there's important thoughts that one should bring to the table when dealing with those issues. I hope that's
helpful. Know what, this other thing everyone always says every time someone does a forgiveness question. Yeah. Forgive yourself. Sometimes people really beat themselves up. You got to share that, because someone's going to say, "What about myself?" Sometimes our biggest way to forgive is not out there, it's ourselves, and we beat ourselves up on a regular basis. Okay. Forgive yourself. You're okay.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
One more.
This one's for you, Raghunath.
Who's it
I don't
from?
even remember what it was.
Hair Mustache, perhaps?
No, it's not from Hair Mustache. Harshal Gordon, no.
Seth the Welder.
Seth the Welder. Okay.
Bhakti Seth. We call him Bhakti Seth the Welder.
Okay.
Bhakti Seth the Welder.
So this is, let's I'll read it to you. You ready?
Yes.
Over the past few months, I've been expanding my practice. Good, great to hear.
Good to hear.
Which started as one round of japa a day, if I felt like it that day, and stopping about 4 or 5 times to check how many bees I had left. Okay. We've all been there. Seth the Welder.
The beans.
Okay. Lately, I have consecutively chanted 2 rounds every morning during the week.
Powerful.
And 4 rounds after the weekend podcast live. All right.
Alrighty.
The most exciting aspect to me is once I start chanting around, it feels as though the beads are drawing me in and I don't want to stop. One time I started with the intent to only chant 2 rounds. I then got the urge for another, then another. Soon I began to really look forward to chanting my rounds. That's
I love these addictive minds.
Remember this because it can slip away. Remember
this romance.
Yes. I feel the inner bliss that has been covered all my life. And in some regards, I'm a bit angry that I missed out on 23 years that could have been much deeper practice.
You've wasted it.
However, forgive yourself, Seth. Forgive yourself. You're okay. I feel the inner bliss. I just read that, didn't I? Yeah. However, this leads to my question. Okay, here's the question. You ready, Raghunath? Question is, how can I deepen my practice during this crazy time that is COVID? I really want to connect with like-minded people at the temple, but the temple's closed. That's San Diego temple, right? San Diego, is that where you're at? San Diego.
It's a great temple, San Diego.
Oh yeah. Yeah, great temple. But the temple's closed. Is there any way to take my practice further? What can I do when I'm alone and away from devotees? I feel like a child without a parent. I feel like I want to pursue a very realistic goal of total immersion in the sweet nectar. Note, he does not say honey pot. He just says sweet nectar. That is Krishna. But I feel so young in this way of life that I will mess up what I have, even though it is very little. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience with me and everyone like me. I know what it could be like dealing with someone who is very new to this and is asking very basic questions, and that is why I feel I need to thank you so deeply. Well, thank you, Seth. We enjoy taking questions like this. Raghunath, it's COVID. Seth is alone. He's separated from others. The temple is not open.
Just walking around the streets with his bead bag crying.
How is he going to deepen?
And then Joe Adamo also writes in, yeah, the romance definitely slips. Then how do you deal with it? It's a good question. First of all, this is the ongoing thing. Krishna gives you some taste. You get hooked. It's sweeter than anything you've ever done before, and then he disappears. It happens again and again. It happened to the gopis.
Happened to Narada.
Happened to Narada. Happened to Prickett.
Prickett.
Everybody.
Yeah.
It happens to me again and again. And what's happening is Krishna's giving that taste. You're getting high from that taste. Then Krishna's disappearing. You're like, does this still work? Is this thing
was that
still
crazy?
Or was like, did I just imagine this stuff? Everybody gets put through this type of test. And there's 2 options on that test is, I think I just made this whole thing up. This is crazy. What am I doing worshiping a little blue cowherd boy? This is silly. And I either give it up and backpedal, or I say, you know what? It's here. I just got to look harder. I got to dig deeper. I got to go more inside. And that will bring you to a next level, just like you're playing Donkey Kong. There's a whole next screen, Galaga. There's a whole next screen with new hurdles and new sweets you can get to eat. There's whole new levels. And I was saying this on Sweet Baby Krishna, I think, the other day, how Krishna disappears. And for a materialist, if the object of your affection disappears, you have a broken heart. I'm gonna speak, and Kaustubha will charade everything I do. It's okay.
What was it again? Say it again. Krishna.
In something in this material world, when the object of your love leaves, then you're desperate, you're sad, you're miserable, you're filled with a deep pain, you're crestfallen. In the material world, if your beloved comes to you, then your happiness. So this is the material world. It's ups, it's downs, it's sadness. But in the spiritual world, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? When your beloved comes, Krishna, I have entered Vrindavan. I'm in bliss. I'm on pilgrimage. I'm bathing in the Ganga. You're like in spiritual bliss. Then all of a sudden, Krishna leaves. Now, Krishna, he feels like, what do I do? Joe Adamo says, what am I doing? I feel the romance is over. What happens is you start thinking of Krishna more and more and more. Krishna, like, where is Krishna? Where can I find Krishna? Just like Narada, just like Pariksit, right? Just like me. Where is Krishna? And I have to figure out a way to go deeper. And in that longing for where is Krishna, that's actually Krishna. It's actually making you fall in love deeper. It doesn't seem that way, but because you can't stop thinking, where is Krishna gone? And now the material, I mean, I've even been in deep Maya thinking, what am I doing? Where is Krishna? And sometimes, because Krishna is your real lover, and therefore, love doesn't mean I got you in a headlock. Love means I'm going to give you a long leash. You can do whatever type of nonsense you want, but it's still a leash. You know why? Because Krishna has set the hook in your heart. And he'll just let you go into as much Maya as you want. And then you start to realize, what am I doing? Where is Krishna? I want Krishna back. I've tried all these other options. It's just not fulfilling me. I want Krishna back. And when you start making that declaration, Krishna, I'm going through a dry spell. I want you. And then he's going to reel you in. And then he's going to reel you in. And so this is what you have to do. You're in preparation right now. And you should think of this as preparation, because when COVID drops and temples open and pilgrimages and stuff like that, where you can rejoin. I mean, I'm doing these programs now. People are so happy just to be with each other again. It's very sweet. And I understand that Lonely Hearts Club band. But it'll come together, but you're in preparation right now. And all my students writing me right now, like, I wish I was in pilgrimage. Here's a photo of last year in pilgrimage. It's just making, my kids too, they're saying, I miss India. It's just making us desperate. Oh, Mother Ganga. Oh, it's making our meditation go real deep. And right?
You went deep with this answer. I like this.
You like it? Yeah. You like it? Yeah. It makes our heart burn.
You know where they say bhakti flows? Where does bhakti flow?
Bhakti flows into rivulets.
Bhakti flows between.
This
is a little takeaway for today.
Two rocks.
No.
Where does bhakti flow?
Bhakti flows between the embankment of union and the embankment of separation.
Oh my God.
Between those.
That was the cherry. Did you hear that? Bhakti flows between the union, the bank of union.
The embankment of union and the embankment of separation.
The embankment.
That's where it flows. Right? That's the nature of bhakti. Even on the beginner practicing level, it was interesting how you presented that. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, he's going away a little bit. Then that's the further impetus to think more of him. But on the highest levels of bhakti, it's flowing constantly between union and separation. Two banks
you out now.
2 banks of the river of bhakti flowing between the two.
That was nice.
All right, I think that's it.
That was good.
Tomorrow we got Edwin Bryant coming on. 8
Very excited.
Eastern time. That's really worth catching. Brilliant stuff on yoga sutras, and I think I may want to get into the Aryan
invasion.
The Aryan invasion theory with him. I think he knows a lot about that.
Maybe I'll introduce everybody to my mom. Bring her on for a quick hi.
Okay.
It's got to be quick, though, because she'll take over the show.
Okay. Edwin Bryant's like, what's going on? Who's this woman? You didn't tell me about anything.
She starts chastising everybody.
All right.
What the heck?
Let's play it.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you're listening on Facebook, we do this every day. You can join us every day. You just got to email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And I wanted to make a big announcement.
Oh.
There's a massive announcement.
What?
We have over 1 million downloads. Is that unbelievable?
That's only on the podcast platform. That doesn't include YouTube or Facebook. Sure. So.
Yeah, there's more. He's saying there's more, but 1 million.
That's cool.
1 million Bhagavatam. Booyah! Mara, give me some of that. And everybody, thanks for making this the #1 podcast according to Simon's Catering in Columbia County. Thank you very much for
all podcasts.
Of all podcasts in Columbia. Yeah. And I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank all our teachers who donated their time for Patreon. The Patreon thing has become a full-on yoga university. I want to thank everybody because we have excellent people.
Lauren Baptiste today.
Lauren Baptiste at 9:30, as well as our Bhakti recovery group. Watch out, Kaustubha's going to start dancing. I think. Is he dancing back there? Oh, see, I told you we'd do this. We wait till his wife leaves. Are you leaving? Okay, goodbye. And then we break out the butter, the sugar, start baking those cookies. And then the pillows come out.
There are no baked cookies.
There are no baked cookies, yeah. But this is actually the most important thing. Because on a material level, it's just all chemicals. But
on the pillow fight level.
But no one can explain. No materialist can explain joy, singing, and dancing. These are imported from other worlds. So we have a show like this every day. We act a little silly. We're okay with that.
Hey!
And then Mara gets the dance cam and she puts it on people from Zoom. So that's why if you're an other out there, there's our youngest member, Goki.
Got the monkey shirt on too.